We pick up in an odd place, given the kind of episodes I've been covering lately. Garibaldi is attempting to build a motorcycle using an instruction manual written in Japanese. You might be impressed thinking that he can speak Japanese, so let me say that his grasp of the language is actually about on par with my own, which consists almost entirely of white base. Lanier swings by in the hopes that security can prevent an important visitor from getting her forehead branded or anything like that, and politely inquires about this hobby. But it's clear Lanier doesn't give a shit. That is, until Garibaldi mentions that it's an important part of human history, the motorcycle, and so offers to assist at least in understanding the manual. But we have a bigger surprise to deal with.
What do you think?
Most of the personnel will be no trouble. This one, however...
Anything you can't handle?
Yes, that is Jeffrey Combs, playing a Psi Corps member, though you may not recognize him without a shitload of makeup on him. They're up to something sinister, but right now Sinclair has bigger concerns, as there have been terrorist activity on the Mars colony against Earth Force, and since letting our fellow troops be shot or blown up is against policy, Babylon 5 is going to have to work to ensure no weapons intended for Martian radicals pass through the station, and that any legitimate sales are tracked and the info forwarded so that they can at least duck first. Meanwhile, the guy who wasn't Jeffrey Combs is pumping some of the people for information, claiming to be from a company that wants a contract on the station, but his ham-fisted technique arouses suspicion, so Garibaldi starts inquiring into his inquiring, and is worried these guys are possibly looking to set up some of that arms smuggling stuff. So he stops by to see Jeffrey Combs, playing Mr. Gray. But before he can say more than 2 words, the head honcho is back and reveals that he is no corporate stooge. He's part of Earth Force, Colonel Ben Zane, and a member of the internal investigators of Earth Force referred to as EYES. The sight organ, not the letter. He and Mr. Gray are here to examine the B-5 command staff.
Similar investigations are taking place on all our outposts. We must know who is loyal to Earth Force and who isn't.
No, that doesn't work. Try saying it again with a clipped German accent. The real thing that pushes this over the line, though, is Mr. Gray being involved, scanning the mind of command-level officers. Ivanova is about as open to that idea as a cavity search from Victor Fries, so Sinclair is going to look over the regulations to see whether or not they're legitimate. As he notes, he's already had his head dicked with a few times. He's got zero interest in adding Mr. Gray to that list. Also happy is Garibaldi, who is being reassigned to work for Ben Zane, presumably to throw rose petals in front of him wherever he walks, given the guy's grandstanding.
Do I have the Colonel's permission to speak freely?
Getting the truth is my job. I expect to hear it whenever you talk to me.
Yeah, well, in that case, I think this is the biggest pile of horse hockey I ever saw. Who the hell's running Earth Force, Abbott and Costello?
Don't be flippant with me, mister. We both know they're on the cabinet now. Well, during all of this, Lanier has had little to do, so he did some research into the significance of the motorcycle and is fascinated by them now. He's practically begging Garibaldi to let him help assemble it. Garibaldi has so much going on, he finally acquiesces just to get Lanier out of his hair, while he still has some of it left. At the moment, he needs to complete some personnel files for the Colonel, but uses the downtime while it's processing to also look into Ben Zane and Mr. Gray themselves. Speaking of which, Mr. Gray stops by to make friends with Ivanova, but she's just not in the mood for that, having zero sympathy that his dreams of being an Earth Force fighter pilot were crushed by being forced out. But Psi Corps allowed him to be their military liaison so that he can serve in some small way. I mean, you can see that the guy is trying to build a bridge here. It's just that Ivanova wants to be Alec Guinness and blow it up. Oh yeah, spoiler warning, they blow up the bridge. While Mr. Gray is doing his best, down in Ben Zane's quarters, Garibaldi is trying to explain some things, like why Sinclair didn't protest the Vorline killing Deathwalker. It's going to be rough.
Gracious good morning to you, Commander. I've been up all night with Colonel Ben Hitler.
Was it fun? I heard Ben was a lot nicer than his brother Adolf. Sinclair says that he's got nothing to hide, but Garibaldi points out that even with his sticking to the rulebook, sometimes he's had to bend the rules to make the station and their situation work, and not everyone is going to appreciate that. When you show people things like reappropriating the military budget to the dock workers, foiling efforts to rein in a renegade telepath, nearly shooting his own people on the Zocalo while drugged, well, what are they going to say? Well, not that, I don't think. This was actually the name of Bill Mooney's album, which annoyed JMS to no end when he found out about it. Well, next we're in for this. Wait, sorry, there's something wrong with that.
Intermission time. Time that stretch you've been wanting.
So Ivanova sees her mother flanked by the theater mask guys.
You refuse to cooperate.
Mama, don't let them do it!
Don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys. Well, I have to tell you, I love a good dream sequence. Sure is a pity that this isn't one. I usually do my best to be forgiving of this show's weaknesses, but if you harness the power of this scene, you'd be lucky to run a digital watch for 5 minutes. But however cheesy that was, it affected Ivanova greatly, and so she turns in her resignation to Sinclair, because she'd rather quit than be scanned. But Sinclair won't hear of it. He's been digging through the regulations, looking for a way out of this, unaware that Ben Zane is digging through Sinclair's own file, looking for what can be used against him. Babylon 5, home of red-hot footage of people reading documents. So Sinclair is brought in, but not before Mr. Gray is surprised to learn that Bester's involved in this, and that deep scans are to be expected despite rules to the contrary. But it doesn't matter because Sinclair won't sit down for the meeting unless Mr. Gray leaves, because whatever the regulations say, they contradict Earth law, and as such, he has command privilege to refuse to obey regulations until they can be formally examined by blah 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 blah. Suffice to say, Ben Zane can't just bully him into doing this. So Ben Zane finally sends Mr. Gray off so that he can get down to the fun part of acting like a dick. Mr. Gray knows that too, as he seeks out Ivanova and talks with her about it. She seems to be doing a lot better around him now. Maybe Sinclair's words made her feel better about his presence. Or maybe having a poorly realized nightmare is just the thing to get her out of her funk. But Mr. Gray, as established, loves Earth Force, and so he dislikes both Psi-Corps interference and Ben Zane's methods. Probably the reason Ivanova is willing to warm up to him a little. Well, the Russian winter soon arrives to cool that down when Mr. Gray brings up her mother, and she explodes at him with such fury, I think Weyoun lost one of his clones. Well, the thing that calls her away from this delightful conversation is word on the weapons smuggling. She tries to fill Sinclair in on that, but Ben Zane won't allow it. He's too busy grilling Sinclair over how we resolved that strike to get into this now. We quickly see that Ben Zane's actions are personal here.
Interview is over.
Stand fast, mister! I've seen plenty like you. Hot shots promoted up through the ranks without any real leadership ability.
Isn't it obvious to everyone that clearly I am the more diplomatic individual? You little shit. Well, he decides he's going to assume command of B5 on the grounds of I don't like your face either. His reasoning is that Sinclair isn't working with the best interests of Earth Force, so he can relieve him. And as the cherry on top, he's doing so for a specific reason, so Mr. Gray is now allowed to do a telepathic scan no matter what Sinclair wants. And he's under house arrest. Because fuck you. This guy's level of nuance is starting to make me pine for the Holy Grail and dying children. He swings by to tell everyone upstairs the good news too, and Ivanova personally that she is going to be questioned and scanned by Mr. Gray as well. She takes it pretty well. She says she's going to refuse, take dishonorable discharge, and to get a head start, walks out while on duty so she can go have a drink. Because if you're Ivanova, if you're going to say to hell with everything, you might as well get a running start first. She'll probably come back later spinning around one of the poles and throwing bras at everybody, just to really unwind. Meanwhile, Sinclair talks to command, but the politics at the moment are rough. The president is trying to get support through for some key legislation, and if he uses influence to derail an investigation some have been calling for, it could cost him the support that he needs. This can be infuriating, that political factions are getting in the way, but there's one positive that can be remembered here. It beats having just one faction because it has destroyed all of the others by any means necessary. With what we see in the later seasons of this show, political factions can be frustrating, but at least there's room for everyone to get a little bit of something that they want, instead of having to live under the boot heel of others. Anyway, Garibaldi swings by to explain what's going on. Ben Zane was one of the top contenders for command of B5, while Sinclair was fairly low on the list. So he resented Sinclair getting a job he wasn't qualified for, in Ben Zane's opinion. So he agreed to work with Bester in getting revenge against Sinclair, which is why he had Mr. Gray go along to help take Sinclair down. But there's an interruption. A guy started making unwanted advances on Ivanova, and next thing we know, she's taking all comers in a bar fight. Garibaldi finally talks her down so we can get on with the final act sober. Usually the best way to conduct military investigations. Although she is Russian, so I could be wrong there. So the big moment comes, the five of them, including Mr. Gray, as Sinclair faces the music. Mr. Gray is instructed to scan all the command level staff, as per the regulation. But as we've learned by now, Sinclair majored in reading the fine print. If the Battle of the Line had been a contest of determining the intent of a car loan application, Sinclair, he would have mopped the floor with the Minbari single-handedly. So Sinclair points out that Ben Zane assuming command means that he qualifies as well, and therefore must be scanned as well during proceedings. Well, this guy's a real peach, taking Sinclair's bait. And not just like, a little bait. It's like those Shark Week videos of the great white chomping on a cow carcass. He lets everything loose. And when Mr. Gray comments on what he's seeing in Ben Zane's mind, the guy slaps him aside and pulls his gun. Well, Mr. Gray may seem like a guy whose greatest physical challenge is fixing his socks when they're inside out, but he can use his powers to temporarily distract Ben Zane with pain long enough for Sinclair to deal with him. So that puts an end to his problem. Garibaldi, though, is shocked to see that Lanier seemed to have misunderstood what his little hobby was about, and completely built the motorcycle without him. But he's more than ready to forgive him when he learns Lanier replaced the gasoline power with Minbari technology, meaning that... That's Lanier, all right, born to be mild. Eyes gets a stamp of fine. It's a bit over the top, but I find the motorcycle stuff one of the more memorable aspects of the episode. But Eyes does lean a little too hard on the melodrama, and the dream sequence is downright laughable. While the episode does show Sinclair's decisions coming back to haunt him, which is good, ultimately they amount to very little. If you're looking for an episode to really pay off on things, I'm afraid that in this case, the Eyes don't have it.